this guy just came in here looking fresh as a daisy for 11:20 in the morning.
I'm always fresh.
Luke Spiller of the Struts. Good to see you, man.
And you, mate.
You doing it's good. We're both standing.
I know. I don't like to sit down in interviews.
I said to Luke, I said, "Do you want to sit?" He goes, "No, I like to stand." And then I thought about it. I was like, "I'm going to stand too." Alex is standing.
I always stand.
We're all stand. I like to stand, but I never. This console's so low. I never feel like.
Yeah, well, for me, the board, it's just perfect waist level. So for you, I understand that.
Yeah,
I just like to shake my ass constantly, on my tiptoes.
There's more. You got more energy, right?
Yeah,
You're a little more alert. You look together.
Yeah.
So listen, man. We've run into each other. Unfortunately, you're leaving LA tomorrow because we're doing our big rainbow thing tomorrow.
Otherwise, I would have been there. I would have been all over that.
The last couple months, I've done it. The irony was, I've done it the last 2 months in a row, and you've walked in just as we were ending. And you're like, what are you doing, man? What's been going on? And I was like, you just missed a whole deal that we had out here.
I had no idea what was going on. So basically, while I've been here, we've been, me and Adam, the guitar player from the Struts, we've been working on new material and just kind of like working up demos, not tracked or anything. And I spent the whole day in my apartment just writing lyrics. And I was like, I just need to get out for a drink. And the bow, as I call it.
Yeah, everybody does the bow.
The bow.
Yeah.
Is kind of become my new local. So it was quite funny. I just said, I'll come down for a cheeky couple of quiet drinks, and then
it turned into a night.
Yeah, it did.
Into a night. It was a good time. So you really don't you still live in England.
Yeah, I was, but I'm actually moving here.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah,
I felt that.
The inevitable was happening.
It was. I felt you being pulled into this city because the last few times I've asked you about that, or all the guys in the band actually said, because I see you here all the time. I said, "Do you live here?" And like, no, we actually live on the road, and we actually still live in England. But you're making the move.
I'm making the move. I'm the first guy.
Are you the first of the four?
I am, and I guess we'll see what kind of happens. But honestly, mate, like the last 3 weeks have really opened up my eyes to what can be achieved when sort of someone has a bit of downtime. And let's be real, it's like everything happens here, and I should have done it quite a while ago, but I'm also a big believer that things happen at the right time, at the right reason. And
I agree.
Recently, things have just been really falling into place, and I've just, the universe is speaking to me, and I'm just, listening to it and acting upon it. So I'm making the move probably late January. So
did you find a place?
I did.
Rent or buy?
I'm just renting.
Smart.
Just to see like how it goes and whatnot. But
now, what's the cost of living like in Los Angeles in the U.S. versus in the U.K.?
It depends where you live. I guess it's like it would be similar to London. I mean, it's ridiculous. London's insane.
Well, I was just telling you, I was just in Zurich, and that's insane.
Yeah,
it's really expensive too. But you're in England. Do you live in London?
No, I this is quite funny, but I literally. I mean, let's kind of like just put it in perspective. We're doing about 130 to 50 shows guaranteed, like in a year,
right?
Every year. And the little time off that we do have, it could just be like a week or maybe 2 weeks. And in that time, I just go and visit my parents. So I just stay there.
Why not? Yeah,
I just stay there. They have they're all
which
the way
is
down
where in England?
It's in a little seaside town called Dawlish, which is in the southwest, and it's very fish and chip kind of culture down there. And there's like I have my local pub, which I take. It takes me like 10 minutes to walk to, but I've really enjoyed that and having that downtime. But I've also noticed every time I get off the road creatively, that's when things start to happen for me. It's like when life,
as far as writing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when life starts to slow down, I start to get reflective, and then I start writing a lot more. So it just kind of makes sense for me to have that reflective time here, and have sort of like I've made a lot of great musical friends over the last sort of 3 or 4 years since we've been sort of dipping in and out here, and quite recently, including these last 3 weeks, we've been working on a lot of new stuff. Not even, and stuff as well that's not quite even Struts related, just sort of getting together and working just for the sake of it and having fun.
Well, you sent me, I don't know if it's okay to say that.
You can say anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you sent me some of the stuff you're working on to listen to.
Yes.
You sent me like 9, 10 tracks, demos that were really, I got back to you, really, really cool. And what blew me away about them was when you told me you were going to send me some stuff, I was just like, you said, oh, they're just work demos, man. They're just, and look, I've been in this business forever. I know what demos sound like and what demos are versus what the final product is.
Yeah.
But dude, your demos are pretty fully realized. Like, I'm used to demos like, okay, there's no verse here, there's no chorus yet, there's a guitar missing here.
I wouldn't send you that.
But well, I mean, again, I've heard that and I understand what that is too.
Yeah.
But these are like, to me, these are of the realization and the quality of these demos are pretty much almost there.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with the tracks that I sent you are ones that I'm kind of we're living with at the moment. What they will become is a completely different question, but we actually recorded a majority of the stuff I sent you at 606 with sort of at the Foo Fighters studio.
Oh, 606 is Dave's studio?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So we did like 6 songs in 3 days, and we just sort of like cut them live and went bang. So they're when I mean like demos, they're just kind of rough and ready. They're not,
right.
And I'm not quite sure like what to do with some of them. I know 2 of them are really, really great. But like I said, like we've also been here, and there's stuff which is still a brewing, which I'll definitely send you once I start getting some good things back.
Was Grohl involved in the recording or in any aspect of the songs that you did at his place?
He walked in covered in like barbecue sauce.
He's the grill master now.
He is, yeah. He wasn't involved creatively. I think he just wanted to see what the hell we were up to, and we were just working out these tracks because there's a beautiful, great big live room, and they actually built it based on ABBA's studio.
Wait, so this isn't like a few years ago he made a Foo Fighters record. He kept telling people in his garage, which of course was probably bigger than most people's houses. This isn't that. He actually built a separate facility.
Yeah, and it's got the old Neve desk as well from Sound City.
Okay.
Which is also great because we're recording on it, and every now and then it goes, and the engineers just literally got to bash it to sort of.
You're not doing it on tape, are you?
No. But they do have tape there. I've heard that a lot of on the previous Foos records they would do drum takes and then bounce that to tape and then build on top of that.
A couple records ago, Foo Fighters record, I forget which one, the title, but two records ago, they recorded an analog on tape, and they put about an inch of the actual tape in every CD.
Really?
In the sleeve. Yeah, there's the actual tape. They cut sections and put a little piece in all the CDs.
What a great idea.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
You should get them all together and then you can play it.
Exactly. You have
stick
the
it back together. There you
exactly.
go.
So you and Adam have been here because you have very little time with the schedule touring all over the world to work on music. And what's interesting that you said to me is that a lot of artists tell me, hey, I do all my writing and all my creative on the road because there's the other 22 hours of the day to occupy yourself. And I go in the back of the bus or in the lounge and I sit down or whatever. You're telling me you need away from all that stuff to get creative.
It really depends. I mean, unlike a lot of other bands, like I think my day is filled with things that are quite singular to me, whether it's like, I start getting ready like 4 hours before the show, the clothes have got to be right, the makeup's sort of get putting on, and I got to make sure everything looks great, and I start like running around like 45 minutes before the show, and then before that we'll probably have press, or we'll go in and visit radio stations and stuff like that, meet and greets, sound checks. I guess creatively, sound checks, we've been working on stuff. There's a few things and riffs which we've applied to like these new ideas, which we really sort of worked out and jammed as a group, which was quite interesting. But I tend to do, it's either after the show when I'm sat back and I've showered and I've said hello to all the fans and whatnot, and I'm just sort of sat having a cigarette and everything's kind of calming, and then I'll start doing stuff. But the majority of the time, I have to kind of be off the road for the juices to flow,
And that process is you and Adam basically getting together. Is that where it starts?
It really depends. It's you know what? It's really been changing. It's like for a big majority of the time, it was me and Adam getting together and exchanging ideas, and then we would go in to a studio wherever we were in the world with a producer or engineer, and then we would start sort of feeding back from them as well, and sort of building things up from the ground. Nothing too premeditated. But this year we've been sort of working on like some of those tracks that I sent to you. It would start with me and Ads, and then we got together like as a group, and kind of, I know this sounds silly, but we're not the kind of group who has ever had the time or the luxury to really get into a room and do sort of pre-production where we're actually jamming and working the songs out like as a group. We always tend to lay down the song and then the tracking gets done after that. So that's kind of changed. But I guess more recently, in these sort of in the month that we've been here, like lyrically and in terms of like subject matter, I've always been very cautious, not cautious, but I haven't been inspired to write about myself or like anything that I'm particularly going through. I've always wanted to, be someone who can supply like escapism, and I've always enjoyed building characters up in my head and sort of like having alter egos and all this kind of stuff, and like Prima Donna Like Me and Roll Up and all these kind of other tracks. But I don't know, for the first time I've actually been sitting down and writing things which I'm actually going through and things that are like from the heart,
personal.
Yeah, like
you're getting
personal. I mean, but it's nice and it's upbeat and it's personal, and there's been a lot of personal sort of like changes that have happened to me in the last sort of like 7 or 8 months, which I felt for the first time that I can actually really express it. But
you find that difficult to do, to expose that side of you?
I did.
I'm assuming you're talking about family relationships, personal relationships, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with like relationships and stuff like that. Whether it's meeting someone new or sort of like getting over things that have happened in the past and whatnot. But I mean, on the whole, it's quite good. I think the collection of tracks that we've been working on recently are really joyous and upbeat and are about love and positivity. So it's been great.
Let me ask you this. This ties in all this, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. But how are you? Okay, you're 2 albums in.
2 albums deep, baby.
2 albums in. You've done a ton of touring. You built this thing. I mean, the Struts went from, I remember, God, you guys played a little club in Jersey and Hoboken, starting out.
Were you there?
No, I wanted to go because I was a fan of the band then as well, but I didn't. I had friends that were there.
There was 200 and something people there.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
First time I saw you was a few years ago at when Craig Gass called me to come to see you in New Orleans. You played House of Blues while Voodoo was going on. Because I was at Voodoo with Foo Fighters.
I remember
and then
that was
came
it.
To see you guys at House of Blues. That was the first time I saw you guys play live. But my point is, it's building. There's radio, there's TV commercials, the Dodge commercial, Dancing in the Streets, and you're becoming a known person now in terms of, the face of the band, let's be honest, and everything that's gone. How are you dealing with that? Because I love that this is happening for you. But that music history is filled with stories of people that handle that all very well. And as fame comes in, and here you are getting ready to move to L.A., like all the trappings
That's why
that come
I'm
with
moving
that.
here. That's
like,
why.
what? Like, are you worried? Like, we want to make sure Luke doesn't go off the rails. Like, are you good at keeping yourself balanced when you need to? Or are you worried? Are you standing here now telling me you are worried that you could be a train wreck in 6 months?
I mean, what a beautiful train wreck it would be. No, I mean, look, I love it. It's.
See, here's I'm gonna get further on this with you.
Okay.
We need people like you in rock music. So I'm not being critical at all.
Right.
I'm being the opposite. I think we need people like Luke Spiller. I think what the world is missing right now in rock music, and beyond the great songs that the Struts have, and beyond how much I love your band, to me, I'm just being honest, you are the great intangible, as I see it, and I don't mean to put extra pressure on you, but among the rock landscape, like I'm very encouraged about where things are going with rock. I think we have a million great bands, but we have very few personalities, people that walk it and talk it. And that can be a dangerous thing because people can look at you and say, oh, he's full of himself. He's an arrogant dick. Look at how he acts, whatever. So it's a fine line between that and, no, this guy knows, he's got a little bravado and we need some fucking rock stars
I love
today.
it. That's
so
right,
I think you're walking that line brilliantly, and I think you're exactly what we need right now. But I'm wondering if you're processing all of that, how much of that is calculated or just your natural personality?
It's what I've always wanted. And the thing is, I'm not ashamed to say it. I want it all, and I want to be the biggest, and I want to be the best. It's like we got a lot of great festivals coming this year, and I love the festivals because it's like
competitive.
I find it
See,
super
few
competitive.
artists will admit to that.
I don't give a shit.
I'm glad
I'll admit
you
to it
did
right now.
I'm glad you did because music. It's always been competitive, and anyone tells you it's not is bullshitting.
Look, whoever says they don't want to be the biggest and the best, they're talking out their ass, right? Or they should just go home and knit a jumper or something. I don't know, like. But when, like, for the festivals, for instance, when I walk in there, especially when we get up on stage, it's great. Like, whether it's 2:00 in the afternoon or we get a later slot, like as the sun's going down, it's all a massive statement for me. It's like, yeah, I love the performing aspect, but I'm also here to show people how it's done, and I'm also here to show people like what we can do, because that's the only thing I've really got. It's the only thing.
Where
that
does
really
it
keeps
come
me going.
from, though? Like, is it instilled in you, or is it stuff you saw coming up? Because when I saw you live for that first time, and I walked in, I was just like, Jesus, this guy is controlling this whole crowd. Like there's nobody that's doing this right now. Beyond the song, if you didn't have the songs, I wouldn't give a shit. Honestly, to me, it's always about the songs. So if the songs aren't there, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
But when you've got the songs and what you're doing up there, and your command of the audience and your ability to sing and play everything so great, it's the total package. You're checking all the boxes. But where does it come from? Is it a lot of rehearsal and work at it and looking at other bands and putting it all together, or is it just instilled in you?
I think it's instilled in me from my idols. I think if for behind all of the people that I've looked up to and admired, I think we've all had the same mentality. It's like, even when I was
Give me those people. Obviously, Freddie.
Obviously, but even when I was younger, Michael Jackson, James Brown. I mean, Michael Jackson, for instance, that guy was constantly projecting to be the biggest and the best, and he worked extremely hard to do so. James Brown as well, calling himself the Godfather of soul, and again, one of the greatest showmen that ever
David
lived.
Lee Roth.
Yes, again, Bon Scott. Angus Young. I always thought that Angus is more of the front man.
Steven Tyler.
Again, it's even people like Robert Plant. Like that guy wasn't stood there sort of singing his heart out the way that he was and had that sort of like presence about him because he was all about the music. He wanted to give a show and create some sort of atmosphere. So it's just the way that I've always thought is the way to do it. It's as simple as that. Ever since I was 15 and I did my first show in a tiny little club called the Croft in Bristol, and I'd made my own outfit. I'd got this sweater or jumper as we call it in the UK, and I got a sewing machine, and I'd created these bat wings, and I'd put like studs on the back of it. I used to call myself Ace Phoenix at that point when I was like 15.
Oh, is that right?
That was my persona, yeah. And it was...
That's a great name, by the way. That's awesome. You shouldn't have said that. You use that as your alias on the road.
Yeah. That'll be my hotel name. Don't tell him.
When you're doing the Enormodomes of the world in a couple of years,
hey,
how can we get to Luke Spiller's name? Use Ace Phoenix.
Yeah, there you go. If you're looking for me, mate, and I'm going to be the...
Or if the Struts do one of those... underplay shows, like you're an arena act at that point, but you're going to go go into the city the night before and do like the tiny little club move.
Yeah.
You bill yourselves as Ace Phoenix.
Ace Phoenix.
It'd be awesome. Hey, hold your thought right there because I got to take a break. We'll come back with more. Luke Spiller from the Struts is here. We're live from Los Angeles. So much to talk about. You guys all know how much I love this band. I think an incredibly important band. I think what this guy and his band are doing is so needed in rock music, and we'll get into some more of that with Luke as we come back. Continuing with Luke. All right, so let's get to the idea. Give me some idea, or the Struts fans, if you will, of musically where you want to go with this yet uncompleted third record.
Musically, where I want to go.
Because to me, the thing about, we talked about some of your influences as a performer and all that, but the Struts walk a lot of lines musically too.
Yeah.
You really do. You have elements of a lot of different things, and you see that when people go to Struts shows.
Yeah.
I've seen people in metal shirts. I've seen people into pop bands. Like you're checking a lot of boxes there too. So where do you want to go with the band?
I want to continue sort of to have the freedom to do what I want and what we want as a group. I mean, of course, like live, I consider us a rock band. It's a rock show. It's really in your face. It's going to blow your ears off. A lot of crowd participation, etc. But musically, when it comes to creative, I want to do what feels good. It's like if I want to do something which is slightly more minimalistic or something which is ridiculously bombastic, I don't want the Struts to ever be boxed in or create a ceiling over our heads, because for me, sky's the limit. And we can do anything that we want. And I think we're dynamic enough, like a lot of my favorite bands, where we can dip into like these different genres and make the most of it. As long as the songs are great, I don't care. We could do something which was like Marvin Gaye or like Lenny Kravitz, for example. But as long as it's great and as long as I believe in it, then that's all that matters. But with this new material, I don't know. Maybe I can't reveal too much at the moment, but everyone will just have to wait and see. It's definitely going to surprise some people. There are some things in there where people are going to be like, "Whoa!" Like, did not expect that. I can guarantee you that.
On the last record, you guys. One of the things I really loved that was, I thought, a little different for you and was just almost reminded me of something like Jim Steinman would almost do, was Fire.
Yeah.
In two different parts. But that to me was so kind of grand and epic while still being, 2 4-minute songs if you put them together. So that was a kind of a cool sort of thing. And then, then there's like funky stuff and then there's more straight up rock stuff. So that is always going to sort of be the mix of what you want to do.
Definitely. I don't think God knows what will happen in the future. But for instance, like right now, me and Adam have been sort of concentrating on stuff which is simple and hooky and really trying to ask ourselves like, okay, how do we take this glam thing and put it into 2020 and make it something which is unique, which does sort of like look at the past but yet sort of accelerates itself into a new year and creates something exciting. Because the big arrangement stuff, it kind of really comes natural. Like I'm a huge Jim Steinman fan. Like,
you are. I was on Mark with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. He is my hero. He's probably one of my biggest musical.
Mostly from Bad Outta Hell, or
I'm a big fan of Bad for Good, the solo album that he put out when him and Meatloaf fell out, which was meant to be the follow up to Bad Outta Hell, which I think is an incredible album, and his voice is completely terrible on it. But I love it. I love it to death. And I've been working on a musical for like 7 years, like a rock musical, which is very Jim Steinman. And
have you ever met him?
No, I've never met him.
Yeah.
I think I'd fall to pieces. I think I would evaporate if I ever met hhim.
You know that he was supposed to produce Def Leppard Hysteria?
I know.
And they started and they aborted the whole thing?
Yeah. I'm so glad. Was it Mutt Lang?
Mutt ended up coming back and doing it. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. But it would have, there's still like amongst Leppard fans that sort of like,
what if?
What would have been, And if you talk to Joe, he's like, it ain't nothing you would want to hear.
No. Yeah.
He also did, and I'm wearing this guy's shirt. I love Billy Squier.
Yeah, he did.
He did a Billy Squier album too.
I did, yeah. And one
Signs of Life.
of my favorite, like you know, everything's like all the Spotify stuff and everything, and the other streaming sites, like it's telling you what songs you've been listening to, like the most.
Oh, I just saw that everybody on social media is pumping out their page or whatever.
I mean, it is quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't do Spotify, so I don't know, but I've seen that like everywhere in the last week. Everybody's like, "Here's my report for the year."
So I was looking at mine, and I listened to Air Supply, which
was that your number one?
No, it was like number 2, Making Love Out of Nothing at All, which is written by Jim Steinman, and I discovered it. My monitor engineer told me about it because we're big Meatloaf fans, and he's a real muso, and we exchanged a lot of music together, and he was like, "You've got to hear this song," and I was like, "I never heard it before," because they were a huge band here, as far as I'm aware.
Who, Meatloaf?
No, Air Supply.
Air Supply, right?
Yeah. With that song, and I listened to it, and I was like, "This is," those tracks that like you just listen to, and you're like,
Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Where has this been like all of my life? And then so like I found this playlist, and it was literally everything that Jim Steinman has ever touched, ever written, produced, and everything. And I just exhausted. I literally lived in that playlist.
Did you like it all?
Pretty much, I'd say like a solid 75% of it. Yeah. I did enjoy, but he's a hero, man. And Making Love Out of Nothing at All is just, it's just brilliant. I love his titles. I love his play on words, and I love the innuendos, and I love how brash it is. And it's just, I'd say if anything, the world needs a little bit more of that. And it's funny, like I have this thing where I really love certain artists, and other people are like, yeah, but they're a joke. And
like who?
I mean, like Meatloaf.
See, I don't believe anyone. See, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Like,
no.
I hate that. Like,
why
if
should
it makes you happy,
yeah.
I've never given a shit about what people think of my musical tastes. Like, it's what I like. Fuck you if you don't like it. Like, I've fought that since high school, man, and it makes me nuts when people sort of try to judge you for what you are into or not into. It's a personal thing. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. It shouldn't matter.
You should never feel guilty about anything that gives you pleasure.
You want to rock Air Supply, Luke Spiller? You go fucking rock Air Supply, man.
20 times in a row as I brush my teeth.
Number 2 on Spotify. Our future leader of rock music, ladies and gentlemen. The guy who has to save the scene is number 2. What was number 1?
Number 1 was 60,000 minutes worth of Badlands by Bruce Springsteen. I've listened to in 12 months.
That song?
Just that one song, 60,000 minutes. Can you believe that?
Why that song?
I don't know. It's just like
he had other good songs.
I know, mate. Trust me, man. I'm
Prove It All Night. I mean, I don't know.
I have this weird thing. I get obsessive.
Wow.
And I have to know every single thing to do with that specific song. And that track is one of those songs that no matter what's happening in the world, how I'm feeling, like how hungover I am or tired or just fed up, I literally put it on. I'm just ready to eat the day up again.
Wow,
every
that is
day. Amazing.
All right, we got this. We have some revealing stuff going on here. When Luke Spiller is hanging out, it's Eddie Trunk live from L.A., and we will continue with more after the top of the hour. We got a few people, some Struts fans in the audience that want to jump on and say a quick hello. Steinman stuff is so thematic. It's like it's crazy. And you said that Total Eclipse of the Heart was written for Meatloaf too, which I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Was that?
I mean,
was Air Supply?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's an album called Bad for Good, which was meant to be the follow-up.
That I know, yeah.
Right, and then they fell out. Jim found it upon himself to try and do everything and sing and it's a beautiful disaster of an album. It's like it's one of those albums where I first heard it and I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like a borderline horrific, and then it's like I fell in love with it. I can't listen to the other versions of those specific songs. Like there was a track on there which Barbra Streisand did. You know, Meatloaf ended up doing Bad for Good on with Brian May and Jim, and then there was loads of people sort of like took songs from the specific album and made them their own and reworked them. But it's his ones that I enjoy the most because he wrote them. Despite the voice not being great, you can hear and feel the emotion. It's just bizarre.
You know what's interesting? The whole Meatloaf thing is crazy because, and I didn't realize this, and a good friend of mine has been Meat's like right-hand guy as producer, writer, everything for probably the last 15, 20 years, Paul Crook. I did not know that Meatloaf in America, Bat Out of Hell is massive. I probably sold 10 million copies.
It's up there with Back in Black, Thriller, everything.
Massive. Yeah. And then that's really it for Meatloaf in this country, except for I Would Do Anything for Love, which came way later, but one song from that, which I guess was the sequel to Bat 2. But in England, Meatloaf actually has like my friend Paul told me is way bigger.
Really?
Like in the UK and Europe, like my point is in England they know records beyond Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah.
Here in America they really don't. Maybe a song or two, but it's all about Bat Out of Hell. It's one record here.
Right.
Where in the UK, it's like Meatloaf's like, 5, 6, 7 records.
Do you know why that is?
No.
That's me. I'm solely responsible for that.
No, but Steinman didn't do all that other stuff, though.
I mean...
Are you a Meatloaf fan beyond Steinman?
Yeah. That's a controversial question. For me, it's like... I don't know. You can't kind of have one without the other. If that makes any sense. There are songs that I know Meat has done without him, which I still, thoroughly enjoy. Like the one he did with Cher. Was that done with Jim? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
What was your first concert?
My first concert. Oh my God. It really depends because I grew up going to church. So my first taste of live music was my dad leading the worship, playing his guitar. And
did you sing in church?
I had to. It was.
But were you in the choir and all that?
No. It was more like, yeah, Jesus lives, all that kind of stuff. So if I wasn't singing, I'd be stood next to my mother, obviously. And if I didn't, she'd just sort of like glare at me. It was very much keeping up appearances. But it wasn't in the church where people discovered you as a singer. No, but no, it wasn't. I remember I used to sing, but it wasn't like, ironically, from the heart. I was doing it because I kind of had to, and sort of please my dear mum, who would have been really embarrassed if I didn't sing. But my first concert, I never actually made it. I never made my first show. I was set to go see Electric Six. Do you remember that band?
No.
What?
Electric Six?
Electric Six from Detroit, probably has one of the greatest rock albums entitled Fire.
Electric Six?
Electric Six.
Never heard of them in my life.
Danger.
What?
High Voltage with Jack White.
I don't. It's a Jack White band?
Jack White sang a duet with them on their debut album, and they had a song called Gay Bar. They were huge they just broke out of nowhere in like
how long? When did the record come out?
2002 or 3. It is phenomenal.
I gotta search it out. I've never heard of it.
Really?
That was gonna be your first show?
That was gonna be my first show, and I was 16, and we had this amazing idea of it was November or January in the UK, so it was freezing cold, and I was wearing a glitter cape.
Of course,
with my chest out, and that was it. Because all of their songs are about, sort of like nuclear wars on the dance floor, and all this kind of stuff, right? So I was just kind of like going along with the theme, and we pre-gamed, as you call it over here.
Yeah.
Which I
tailgate,
whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we bought a huge big bottle of vodka, and it was safe to say that on an empty stomach, after spending my lunch money to put together towards this horrifically cheap liter of vodka, I drank the most of it, and then I got to the queue, and then
the line, as we would call it,
or the line, yeah. And then I was out there, and then I sparked up a joint, and then that was it. It was game over. I then collapsed in an alleyway, and then was throwing up, and then the ambulance came, and
it was that bad.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting my stomach like pumped, and then because I almost died of hypothermia. It was like my friends were so shit scared they waited like 2 hours to call the ambulance because I couldn't move.
But wait, isn't that like standard procedure in England? Like they'll just pump your stomach and then back out you go.
I mean, I don't know, but maybe
Is that a thing?
Yeah, they have like when all the pubs are going on, they'll just be like, all right, bring them in. And there's one after another.
Yeah, we'll just carry on. That's how we are in the UK. But it was
Had
safe.
too much to drink, we'll pump you out and fill you up again. No problem.
Back in you go.
It was safe to say it was. That was it. I don't remember anything. And then I woke up in hospital, and my dad was sat next to me.
How old were you at this point?
15.
Oh, wow. So it's really young to be that.
Yeah, to be that inebriated.
Fucked up.
Yeah, and the first thing I said is I saw my dad, and I was like, "Did I miss Electric Six?" I'm not even joking. And despite everything, and my friend took a picture of me like sort of all hooked up and wired up and like completely just gone, and it said Luke Spiller, ethanol poisoning plus or something like that.
You weren't Ace Phoenix yet.
No, but my friend who was the drummer in my old band, the ambulance came and they were like, what's his name? And it was like, his name's Luke, but in this state, he probably will respond to Ace Phoenix. You have to call him Ace. So she was like, Ace, I need you to get up. And apparently I got up and I grabbed her boob accidentally. She was a female sort of like ambulance worker. And then, they threw me into the ambulance, and I was so cold that they couldn't find any veins. So they ripped all of my clothes off, which wasn't a lot. It was just this huge disco cape, and they took down my trousers, or pants, as you say around here. And then they just sort of like blew this like, they took this funnel and blew hot air everywhere, and then jabbed like these needles into me to kind of like get me to wake up and whatnot. But it was a good night out. But that would have been my first show.
It would have been. What was the first show you were conscious for, Luke?
That was the year
You weren't kidding. Revived before it started.
I know. I did get to see them actually at one point, and Electric Six the following year, and I joined them on stage and was doing press ups, and then I met them, and we were all throwing the singer Dick Valentine in the air. But my first proper show after that would have been to see The Darkness when they headlined Reading and Leeds Festival. I think it was 2003, so it would have been the year after that.
Why do you think The Darkness hasn't been bigger in America? Are they big in England? I had Justin on, and Rufus was in as well on this show, and I talked to him a little bit about this, that I think that in America, there's almost a feeling that they're a bit of a novelty band.
Right.
Which they really aren't.
No.
You know, it's not like it's Steel Panther or something where it's a spoof.
Yeah.
They really aren't. But I think because of the only thing they came close to really hit here was Thing Called Love. And I think because of the video and how, wacky they were in it, people almost thought of them as like not serious.
Well, I think it was the same in the UK, but do you know what it is? I think when you look back at sort of like any group, there's a level of momentum that sort of from what I can gather, that happens like a very few times in any artist's career, and I think it's like extremely important that group or that artist has to capitalize on that and go all the way. I don't exactly know a huge amount of detail to comment on why that band in particular isn't bigger, which they should be over here,
because they have their fans, but it's just they can't seem to get over that hump here.
I think maybe it's this, but it's the same with Oasis as well. Like they were gods
they were stadium act in England,
in the UK, and then they came over here working the debut album, definitely maybe, and then it's like America, you need a completely different work ethic. It's like, and it becomes a shock to a lot of groups in the UK. And to be honest, I can see why if you don't break America, it might break your band. Especially for a group like Oasis or The Darkness or whatever, where the country in which they hail from is sort of like embraced them with open arms, and then all this success is thrown at them, and then you go across the pond and all of a sudden you're thrown into this place, which, let's be real, is fucking huge.
Well, I was just going to say, is the biggest obstacle the size?
It's massive. It's like nothing else on planet Earth, right? In terms of like a market, because it's got countries within itself, and that's what it feels like anyway within the States. So, you know, you're sort of like, by the time I think bands get there, they're either exhausted, uninspired, disenchanted, or, you know, and that's tough to go from having so much praise to pretty much having to turn a new one and start again is a big challenge for a lot of bands. And I do feel extremely lucky that we've been quite the opposite. It's like,
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, but America embraced the Struts long before England did. Now, it's come around for you in England in a big way.
Yeah.
I saw you guys play that show in Pennsylvania. I saw you do in Allentown or Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I don't know when it was for the last record. And you even said on stage that you were just, hey, this is our home. You know, you guys got us first, and
it's true.
you know, you're pretty, you know, at the expense of that YouTube video getting back into England. You were pretty, you know, you pretty much, you know, almost took a little bit of a shot at your home country, although it didn't hurt you, because shortly after that, well, I know it was a big deal that Dave Grohl made that comment saying that the Struts were the best opening act the Foo Fighters ever had. And that really changed the tide for you in England, right?
I mean, yes and no. It's like, and to be honest, if I was to make sort of like any criticism whatsoever, it would never be about the people attending the shows. It's, you know, I mean, I used to do it a lot. God, I was so bitter. I'd be like, God.
Right, that's what I saw on stage.
I used to be like, fuck the UK, man.
And
like,
it plays great in America.
I mean,
we're like, fucking British
like,
guy, he loves us.
It's true. They do love that. And yes, there was a part of me which did play upon that. But it's, even to this day, the UK have never played any of our music on the radio or any major radio station. And every single that we've presented in the US has been like completely denied straight away. Even after Dave Grohl said what he said, even that radio station wouldn't play the music.
Really?
Yeah. It really doesn't matter. I don't know.
But it changed. It has changed, because I know you've gotten great reviews. I read the British rock magazines, whether it be classic rock or whatever. Prima Donna is on their #1 playlist, and you played Download, right? I mean, you've got, it's definitely changed. But do you think some of the sort of backlash, if there is such a thing for the Struts in England, is because Joe Elliott told me this many times? When Def Leppard's first record came out, the lead single on it was a song called Hello America.
Yeah.
And that pissed off the Brits like you can't believe, because they looked at it as Def Leppard, our boys, our British boys, just reaching for the grail of America so out of the box.
Yeah.
And what I never knew until Joe told me was that in America, Def Leppard broke enormously on Pyromania.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that where here in America, Leppard would play and headline arenas and sold 10 million copies of Pyromania, he would go home to England and no one in the street would stop him to go get a loaf of bread. It didn't happen there till Hysteria, which I never knew, which I found amazing. But they took them 3-4 albums to punch through, because there was this bias that they were a British band catering to America. Do you think that happened in your band?
No. We released the debut album, the same one that we released here, pretty much.
Everybody Wants came out.
Everybody Wants came out 2 years before we released it here.
Same tracks, same.
Pretty much. It was like there was about 3 or 4 other tracks. Honestly, I think I've done something. I think I've fucked someone's wife or something at the top. And someone has a grudge against me.
In England?
In the UK. I must have done something wrong. Like, the tickets speak for themselves. It's like the marketplace is pretty much on par with like what we're doing here in terms of like our the people that are coming, the attendance and whatnot. So, you know, I've been.
Wait, so you're saying the draw
is the same.
Is fine in England right now?
Absolutely.
But you're not getting radio support in England?
No.
Still, nothing from the 2 records.
Nothing, not on the major platforms like BBC Radio 1, 2, or whatnot. So I've definitely been a bad boy to someone, for sure.
Do you really believe that?
It's the only other option left. Maybe in my more sort of like promiscuous years, I've definitely done something wrong, or maybe not done it good enough.
This is awesome. We got to get to the bottom of. Maybe Ace Phoenix did this, and we don't know. Blame it on Ace Phoenix.
Maybe it was the ambulance worker who I indirectly, accidentally sexually harassed that night. Maybe she's now the head
Hey,
of
you
the
grabbed
BBC.
The boob.
Yeah,
It was a Me Too moment at 15.
that's it. It's coming out.
What do you draw in England when the Struts play?
I mean, like we're doing like anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000. And when we played the UK twice this year. We decided to do everything twice just because we could. So in sort of like the A markets, like London, Manchester, and Leeds was fantastic. It's all averaging between 1,500 to 2,500 a night.
What's your probably at the same average draw here in America for you as a headline, right?
Yeah, I mean it's America's always one step ahead. Like we did Pier 17, which was fantastic.
And then the next day you played in Pennsylvania. I remember you said, I'm glad you didn't come to that show. Because it was a parking lot of a casino or something.
It was, mate, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of it all. But Pier 17 was great. I got to ride a Harley Davidson out on stage, and that was sold out. That was like...
You went all Rob Halford on that one, huh?
I know, man. Like, literally, that was the weirdest thing that ever happened. Like, 2 months before, this guy said, hey, man, like, Harley, you're interested in sort of getting in touch with you, and would you ever consider working with Harley Davidson? And I was like, yeah, man, like, cool. And it was like, okay, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to ride a fucking Harley on the stage.
Do you ride? Did you ride before this?
No, absolutely not. Right. So this tiny little idea that I had, spur of the moment, when I was drinking coffee, waking bacon, and talking to this guy, suddenly became, okay, let's do that. It can't be that hard. Turned into, okay, Harley are now going to supply you with like training on your days off when you're on tour with an ex-police biker cop, right? Who was lovely. Shout out to Casey if you're hearing. And he basically trained me for sort of like a month or so. And then we went out on the road. And then it turns out, right, 3 days before the bloody show, I found out that I actually technically couldn't put the bike in ignition and actually start it up, right?
Jesus Christ.
Right? Because
he's in a sequin gown
I'm not even
eyeliner and giant heels. Trying to start a Harley on stage.
I'm not even joking, man. So I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Like, I've done all of this training, which was fantastic, but I was like, now I can't even start the fucking bike. So what we had pipe and drape for about 11 feet worth of pipe and drape where the audience couldn't see me. I had to fucking put the bike in ignition, in neutral, and then 2 stunt coordinators came. Right, right, and then they fucking pushed me out onto the stage, and then I had to make it to the drum riser, and that was a good like 20 feet, And if you've ever ridden a bike,
I don't.
It's like if you're not using the clutch and you're on the bike and you haven't got an acceleration, as soon as you start slowing down, you're fucked. Like you're tipping,
yeah,
or you've got to come to a stop,
and it's heavy.
And it was a fairly decent sized bike. So I was like, right, this is like almost in front of almost 4,000 people, sold out. We got helicopters, right, above the audience filming this entrance, and it's going to be...
It's a lot of pressure.
Mate, pressure's not even the word, man. Pressure's not even the word.
What was the song you were coming out to on the Harley?
Prima Donna.
All right.
Prima Donna Like Me. So it went... And then we had Lee's... And because this is the most hilarious thing, because I couldn't rev the engine, we had a fake motorbike like engine coming through the PA, so it was like.
I think Priest does that too, so I don't.
Yeah, and I have heard you can't because the health and safety and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, they pushed me, and then I thank God I parked it, I put the kickstand up properly, and it stayed there.
But that barely makes any sense because isn't Pier 17 a rooftop? It's not like you got to worry about fumes and shit.
So, do you know what? I was told that was the way that it was going to happen, and you're right. You're right. It's not like an arena.
Right.
You know, but I
There's
was
not a roof
thinking
on it. Right. You got exhaust there. Yeah.
But yeah, so
I'm sure you looked glorious doing it.
oh, it's all over
I'm
YouTube.
sure,
You know,
I got to look at it. I'm sure it looked seamless, but now we know the story behind it.
there you go.
All right, Luke Spiller's here. We're hanging out. Brett Michaels is going to call in 12, 13 minutes. He's a fan of yours as well, Luke. So
Is he?
Yes. So you'll get to. Do you ever met him?
I never have. No, we shared a tour. We shared a driver actually.
A bus driver.
A bus driver who because I believe Brett rides a lot of motorcycles, and so did my
He knows how to start them.
yeah. I know how to start a bike, right? Well, let's just get that straight. You know,
What was the best Struts tour so far? Foo Fighters.
It's so different because you've got with the Foo Fighters tour. It was great to watch them every night. It was fantastic to sort of like form genuine relationships. Like
You came out and did Under Pressure with them pretty much every night.
yeah, which was, you know, if I was to get hit by a bus after this interview, then, you know, I could say I had a great time and I had some great experiences, and that being definitely one of the top that I've had to date. But you can't beat your own audience. You can't.
When you mean do your own headline shows?
Yeah, like I playing in front of the Foos was great, but you know, it's like you come out. I came out on stage every night like a bullet from a gun, and it was relentless. There was no time to relax, even sip a water sometimes. It's just like bang, 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 because I gotta get everyone as soon as I can and as soon as I get out there engaged with me. Otherwise, and if you fall off it for me, what seems like just even 15 seconds, then we're going to lose them. I mean, I'm just like that anyway. Like I turn around and I shout at the other guys in the band. Like if I feel like the gap is longer than 15, 20 seconds in between, you know, song A to B or whatever, you know, it's like I like to keep things moving. I like it to be relentless.
You know, I just realized something. You opened shows for Motley Crue
Yes.
on what was their farewell tour, right?
I know, man. And then I saw that post the other day, well, even yesterday, I was like, oh, okay. But it's all right.
But so Motley is, I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on that? Because you were part of the whole, not that you were part of it, but you were the support act for some of that tour. The end, the contract, never coming back, and here we are on this big tour. Did you believe that was going to be it for Motley Crue? Did you get to spend time with them? Did you get to know them at all on that tour?
I mean, I was in touch with Nikki mostly, and
because they admit they were not getting along, which is one of the reasons why it ended.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they've been public about that.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like any dynamic. Each member sort of has its own camp, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Even the Struts to an extent has that. But I didn't really get to meet everybody. It was mainly Tommy and Nikki. Like we actually spent New Year's Eve with Tommy, and that he threw.
Oh man! And you lived to tell about that, huh?
Yeah. I didn't get my stomach pumped then. No, and he did like this after show thing at the Staples Center where they were playing. I believe it was Staples Center.
Yeah, it was the last show.
Yeah, and that was fun. They had like a.
So you played that show?
I did, yeah.
So the Struts were the support act on the very last,
Yes.
at that time, Motley show, the New Year's Eve show at
The
Staples.
last 4 shows. We did 1 in Vegas and 3 in LA.
How did you guys go down with their crowd?
I thought it went down great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went down. I remember it being good. I mean, God, it was a while now. I think that was
3 years.
Was it?
So,
I thought it was 4 years ago, wasn't it? 16?
well, it was in 16 into 17, right?
It's 4 years. He's pointing at. Yeah.
16 into 17 or 15 into 16?
Hold on, let me Google it.
Was the last Motley show until the next.
Either way, it feels like a million years ago. I mean, I remember. I do remember us going down really well. I do remember that.
Did you ever have a date where you opened for an act and you didn't go down well, and and the crowd was flipping the bird, or you had to really work, or
December 31st, 2015.
15?
There we go.
So it's into 16. So it's three, almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we
Shit,
go.
time flies. Did you ever have a brutal show where people
No.
were killing you?
No, I've never had a bad show. I've never had a show where I haven't been able to win the audience over, even if it was 20 people at sort of like these festivals that we've done in sort of like the amphitheaters and stuff like that. I've always thought, right, you know what? There have been times in the last couple of years where we will do a festival and it will be like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're really excited to play it, and then the crowd has been quite sparse for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure, but I'll still go out there and play exactly the same, with exactly the same tenacity and energy as if it was sort of like 4,000 of our own fans. It's just kind of like the way we do it. I did get mischievous once when we first came over in that year, 2015. I was drinking a lot when we were on tour, and I used to get extremely loose before I got on stage in those days. And I remember
loose in terms of drinking.
Yeah. Just, it was. I liked to get a great buzz on before I got on, and that was the way it was ever since I was sort of like 16. It was always like that.
But you just said that in a past tense. Do you not do that anymore?
Not so much. No. Like now, for the majority, I'll sort of like be sober on stage now because I'm even better. When I'm sober.
But you're cognizant of that too. That's part of growing up, that you realize that you've got people out there that paid for the show, and you don't want to be a mess, and you've got to. A lot of it's on you, man. You're the front man. You're the singer. You've got to be on it.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say that we haven't cancelled a show in 5 years.
Yeah,
despite the schedule, but that is because sacrifices are made and whatnot.
But what happened this time when you had one too many?
Oh, well, we were playing the show, and God, where was it? I think it was in Detroit. Anyway, they're nuts around there, right? They're real big rock fans, and I was sort of like in between a song, sipping my drink, and everyone's just like rowdy as hell, and this girl's like on the front. She's like, "Woo! What are you drinking, Luke?" And I'm like, "Why don't you find out?" And I poured it all over her, thinking it would be funny, but she didn't.
Like on her head?
Just all over. I emptied it out on her. Just like, I was like, it's a fan. Like I go up to fans sometimes, I kiss them, and then I slap them on the face, and then walk off, and everyone's just like, It was funny. I used to spray my audience like with champagne at the end, and so that didn't seem sort of like strange to me. I was like, if someone who I love did that to me, I would have been like, that's so cool. I'm at a rock show. It's sweaty. Everyone's covered in.
You see
in
that
sweat.
all the time.
Yeah. Anyway, this girl did not appreciate it. She flipped out. She was like, I think she was a bit of a poser. I don't think she was a real fan. She'd made her way to the front. And
was it a club gig?
It was a club gig, yeah.
So they were right on top of you.
And she just kicked off. Like, she was like, "You motherfucker." And then she was like...
She come on stage?
She was trying to get on the stage, and then like the security came off. Her boyfriend, ironically, was laughing his ass off, thinking it was the most hilarious thing he'd ever seen. She gets dragged off through the audience. She's reaching into her handbag. She's like throwing like tampons at me, and like, and then she threw, which could have done a bit of damage, could have taken my gnashes out. Was
your what?
My gnashes, my teeth.
Oh, okay.
Right. She threw nail polish. And I remember seeing it coming towards me. I literally dodged it as I was singing. She was like screaming.
So anything she could get her hands on, she's throwing at you.
Anything. She was just grabbing shit. And then she goes up to the merch table on the way out, And
were you guys out there doing a...
I wasn't. No, we were still on stage.
Oh.
We were like midway through our set. So she goes up to our merch table and she just like... She grabs all of the stuff and like tries to flip the table like on the way out, and like all of our t-shirts are like all over the floor and everything. So yeah, note to self.
You thought you were gonna be like, "Oh, Luke, spill it, throw your drink all over me. I want every drop."
That's what drinking.
You're dodging nail polish.
That's what drinking does. It sort of definitely sort of blurs your sort of like vision between probably your judgment. For sure.
Biggest crowd you've played to so far. The biggest crowd you have played to with the Struts. Where was it?
What, like opened act for
whatever?
someone?
Yeah, like when you walked out on stage and the most amount of people you ever saw was out there.
I think it was 80,000.
80,000.
80,000.
Was that with Foo Fighters?
That was with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, I forgot you opened for the Stones.
Yeah, and then
where was that?
In Stade de France in Paris, and then actually slightly more recent to that would have been in Quebec, in Canada, opening up for The Who. That was like 80,000.
Look at the list of bands you've opened for. The Who,
just
the
a few of them,
Stones, the Foo Fighters, Motley. That is insane. Real quick, did you meet the Stones?
Yeah. Yeah,
You met Mick and Keith?
We've opened up to them 3 times. So we had a couple of sort of like small but lovely conversations that I'll definitely cherish forever, which was great. We were sort of like set to meet them, and bless him, like Charlie Watt was the first guy to come in. He was like 3 minutes early than everyone else because they wanted to say a quick hello and whatnot, and so we ended up sort of like chewing Charlie Watt's ears off just about everything, and bless him, he was lovely. Then Ronnie came in and whatnot, and yeah, it's yeah.
When Mick and Keith did come in.
Oh yeah, man. Mick said, I like your jacket. And then we sort of.
God, how do you even do? Like, what do you even say? Like,
I didn't really say a lot, man. Like, I remember the first time we did it, he walked up to me, and then we had like I was watching them sound check, which I knew that you shouldn't really be doing, but I was like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. I'm like, this is never going to happen again.
But it did.
And it did, yeah. And he came off stage after they were sound checking, and then he clocked me, and I think he recognized me, so he walked straight up and he was like, hi, I'm Mick. And
Hi, I'm Mick.
I'm like, hi.
I had no idea you were Mick Jagger.
Hi. I'm like, yeah, what's up? And then I was like, yeah, man. So like, yeah, thanks for having us and everything. And he's like, oh no, it's fine, And I was like, so how's it all been going? He was like, the sound's going to be great tonight, and the show that we were playing previously, like, the sound wasn't very good, and it's like in these giant, huge stadiums, it's like, it's hard to get like consistent sound every night, and I'm just sort of like looking at him, like nodding, like, yeah, man, like, yeah, I totally know what the fuck you're going on about right now, yeah, God, we've got a connection right there, you know what I mean? What the fuck?
Luke Spiller has dates with the Struts. I did not realize this, man. I live in New Jersey. You're playing in Philly. You're like 2 hours away.
Yeah, man.
I may have to come see you.
Come down.
28th and 29th. The 28th is sold out. The Fillmore in Philadelphia. Seems kind of random, like just dropping into Philly out of nowhere. What's going on?
Hey, man.
New Year's Eve in Nashville, Tennessee. Jack Daniels Music City. So there's your New Year's show.
Yeah.
So you got three shows there towards just at the end.
Yeah.
Little Christmas money or post-Christmas money.
Yeah. I'm going back tomorrow, and then I fly back out on Boxing Day to come here, which would be the 27th.
Yeah.
26th.
That means nothing.
We don't know what Boxing Day means,
God,
but
sorry.
I just know when you're coming.
Okay.
Okay. And then you've got other dates coming up: San Diego and Anaheim and Tempe in March.
Our tour de California.
Yeah,
which is going to be fantastic. And to be honest, I've been waiting for that kind of tour. It's like 5 shows, all in beautiful weather, and I don't like touring when it gets cold.
And these are all headline dates. No more dates with the Stones. You're not hanging with Mick anytime again soon.
No, I had to say to him, man. I was like, I can't. I got to start,
Mick, you and your 80,000 people, you just had us open for the Stones. We're kind of over it now, man. We got to move on.
Not over it, but I need to start getting my own 80,000 people,
Exactly. That's the right attitude. All right, we got to wrap this thing up, man, but this was a blast. Luke, I can't thank you enough, man. Come sit in with me anytime. This was too much fun.
Cheers, man. Cheers.
And go to thestruts.com to find out about all the upcoming tour dates and everything the guys have going on. All the dates are there. The next one is in Philly. Sold out on the 28th, 29th. Tickets remain 2 nights at the Fillmore, and the rest of the shows are listed there as well. And they'll just keep coming, and you'll see them be added up there. And can't wait for the next record, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
From what you're sending me, it sounds like it's great. I can't wait for it to be complete. We'll keep everybody posted on that.
प्यार कैसे भूल पैगो जान